Joe Rogan's another good example. Like, there's no way that guy's not set financially. Like, he's the most successful podcast forever.
Ever. Yeah.
He still shows up, still does it. And you watch that podcast, you see it in his eyes.
Passion.
He fucking loves it.
Yep, absolutely.
He is not going through the motion in those conversations. He's so engaged. He's so curious. And I think that, like, that's his thing. Like, I think that if all the money was turned off, like, I'd still be showing up every day.
Would you want to see him host a 4-hour debate between Trump and Biden?
Yes, absolutely.
That's like the most unbiased place you could be. It seems so interesting to have him in that spot.
Joe or not, personally, I think he'd be a great person to do it, because I think that, like, a lot of more liberal crowds see him as, like, a very strict conservative. But if you watch his show, he's not. He doesn't care. He said he was going to vote for Bernie.
Yeah.
But just the idea of having a debate not be like a 15 seconds to say gotcha to the other guy, and then the other guy gets 15 seconds to say gotcha to you.
Open
like,
format.
Just this idea of, like, letting two people talk across from each other for 4 hours. Make it 2 hours. I'll still show up. Like, that is fascinating.
Yeah.
And, like, we got to make a decision here who we're going to vote for, and, like, give us that venue.
Right.
I find, like, I don't want to get all political, but, like, the I don't know if you watched the Democratic debates when they had, like, 16 people on stage and each person got 5 seconds to say something. It's like, this is how we're supposed to choose our next leader?
Yeah.
This doesn't work.
It's all fucked up.
Yeah. So when I saw that trending on Twitter today, I was like, hell yes, I would love 4 hours of conversation.
It'll never happen.
Never happen.
It'll never fucking happen. You don't think so? No. It's not going to happen.
It's
Why
too,
not?
too risky.
What do you mean risky?
Too risky.
For who?
I think
Joe Rogan is a liability, is what you're saying.
No,
I think
too
it's
risky for the
uniquely.
candidates.
I think it's uniquely too risky for probably Biden would have the most to
trouble
lose.
with it, yeah.
Trump also would have a lot to lose. Every time Trump sort of sits down for a big interview, and it goes in a direction that he's not maybe planned for, you know, there's always a conversation that he has to then. I don't know if you saw Bob Woodward, who's like a big journalist. Bob Woodward took down Nixon.
Yeah.
He had an interview with Bob Woodward, and Bob Woodward sort of backed him into he didn't back him into a corner, but he asked him a question frankly, and Trump came right out and he was like, yeah, I downplayed the coronavirus.
This was just last week, right?
This was last week.
Huge
that's right.
thing. Yep.
And I just think that, like, the people who are in charge of, like, a Biden campaign or a Trump campaign, they know that, like, if these guys are able to speak in an unfettered way, it's just like the bigger net you cast, the more likely you are to sort of say something that maybe shouldn't be said.
It's like taking him out of a boxing ring and putting him out in the street barefisted with no fucking coach.
But Mike, the unfortunate thing is for, like, us voters,
we need that.
Yeah, I like these cookie cutter messages and these, like, one-liners and these, like, scripted teleprompter speeches. It's like, how are you supposed to learn about a potential candidate?
The thing I'm the most sick of in this current cycle is I don't want to hear a candidate tell me what's wrong with the other candidate anymore. Yeah, that got hot with Trump in 2016. Yeah. It got hot. It's went through its motions. I'm sick of it. I'm done with it. I'm tired of hearing sleepy Joe Biden. I'm tired of hearing from Biden that Trump's I don't want to hear this shit anymore.
You know what it does?
What are you going to do to reunite the broken fucking country that we live in right now?
Like yesterday, I'm a big politics junkie. It's like all I do is read the news. But, like, a couple of days ago, Bernie came out and said that he thinks Biden should be spending less time talking about Trump and more time talking about how he's going to help low-income Americans.
I agree.
And it's like, I don't know what the latest numbers are about how many people are out of work because of coronavirus, how many people are struggling because of healthcare related to coronavirus. Like, that shit keeps me up at night. And I don't know what Trump's going to do to fix that. I don't know what Biden's going to do to fix that. And that's a really unfortunate place to be in.
You took a little bit of a leap in the last election when you came out and said that you were going to vote for Hillary. Do you feel you have a political responsibility? A lot of influencers or personalities tend to stay away from politics, but not pop right in.
I don't think it can cost you. It's a really costly thing. And I think, like, for all the shit that I got in that video, it wasn't because I endorsed Hillary. Or I don't know if I endorsed her. I just said I was going to vote for her. I think it was the way that I presented it in that video. Like, when I made that video, I was really frustrated that no YouTubers were stepping up. Like, this is right when, like, the Trump grab him by the pussy video came out, and it was like, now we're used to that. You know, we're used to.
Oh yeah, that's nothing now. Yeah, that's common shit now. To grab him by the pussy is a 24/7 thing.
But, like,
now.
To hear that, and it was like, wow, this guy's going to run for president. Nobody's talking about this. Like, I know it's really hot. So I don't think it was that I endorsed a Democrat. I think that it was the fact that like I got really aggressive in that video saying that like YouTubers need to speak up. And I think the way that I said it was wrong and maybe unfair, but I think the general idea behind it is still something that I believe in. And I think there probably is a responsibility. You know, like I say like without any hesitation, like I'm voting for Joe Biden. I'll sit here and critique the guy and say what's wrong with him for days because like I'm not excited about voting for Joe Biden. I'm not. It's just
does that piss you off that you've once again ended up in a lesser of two evils situation?
Yeah,
like how fucking frustrating.
I mean, just like, not to sound too cheesy, but like, imagine being inspired by a candidate. Imagine looking at someone being like, fuck yes, this is someone who cares about the things that matter to me and the problems that I see every day. I drove from Santa Monica to your house here in the Valley. You know how many homeless people I saw on the ride over?
Yeah.
How many times have you heard either candidate talk about homelessness?
None.
None. So it's a really frustrating place to be in. And I do think that I think that Trump is uniquely bad. Like I really, really, really don't like that guy.
You said uniquely bad.
I think uniquely bad.
What does that mean?
That means in the history, I'm 39 years old, like a presidential candidates and presidents, like the things that he's done and the things that he's said, I think put him on another level in my eyes of like I'm Jewish, like very fine people on both sides. Like those are fucking Nazis, man. Don't say that about those people. And I feel like that affects me, like really personally. It hurts me that this is the guy who represents like this amazing country that we live in. So no, I think he's like uniquely bad. That doesn't get me any more excited to vote for
Biden.
The other side. Yeah, and I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. Like I'm super fucking liberal when it comes to like women's reproductive issues and gay rights. Like I'm as liberal as they come. But when it comes to fiscal issues, like a little bit more conservative.
Would you call yourself a libertarian or?
Not quite, but with some stuff, like I believe in like, you know, I believe in the Second Amendment. Like I'm all over the place. I definitely don't vote on party lines. Like I wouldn't vote because this person's a Democrat.
Yeah.
Like John McCain, vote for that guy in a fucking second.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
A man of integrity.
Yeah.
You know, like even George Bush, who like.
How crazy is this that we can now look at each other and say, I would kill to have GW? So would you vote GW over Trump and Biden this year?
It's a little it's a little complicated because the guy led us into
a massive conflict in the
like a huge war.
For sure. All right. So massive conflict in the Middle East aside.
There's a strong argument that like he's like the worst war criminal ever because of that war.
Pull that part out.
Pull that part out. But what I was going to say is, like, I was there on September 12th, 13th, when he was like, standing on the rubble with that firefighter. And, like, at a time when the country was totally fucked up, like it is now with the coronavirus, like, he is a man who when you look into his eyes, I believe that he wanted to unite this country. No matter how much I disagreed with George Bush, no matter how much damage he did, like, I still believe he's someone whose integrity in his heart was in the right place.
He was at Nantucket Project too. I got to meet him. He's an awesome guy. He said his favorite thing to do is clear brush. That's what he loves to do. He loves to hang on his ranch.
With what? He's a painter.
Clear brush, just with his hands or with a rake.
Like clearing
shrubs.
brush.
Yeah, clear brush. And like anything that rolls over the roads.
Yard work?
Yeah, yard work. He loves yard work.
He used to do that as president.
Yeah.
It's pretty badass. Like seeing your president in a huge cowboy hat clearing brush. Like
with a scythe, do you think?
Maybe a scythe, maybe some sort of lawnmower.
Yeah.